Dude, ghosts are not real. If they were real, we would like see them every day in our house. But guess what? We don't. We come inside, we're always hyper and stuff, and ghosts are not real. Because if they were, we'd see them. And of course not. We don't. Because we're always home and we'll never see them. Like I was saying, ghosts are not real, so stop believing in them. They're not real.
Should I give in to temptation? A sweet sound to steal my breath away. Is this the last chance? Go to sleep.
You have asked a blessing of me, Mr. Leech, and I do consent to charge thee with mine task. Fail me not, for hell is only the beginning for those who displease me. Fail me not, Jeffrey Leech. Fail me not.
The final command resounded through his whole being, as if it were echoing straight from the halls of hell. Jeffrey awoke to the sound of his own screaming. "I won't fail thee, master! I won't!" "Mr. Leech?" The night nurse ran into Jeffrey's room, turning on the lights and coming to his bedside. "Mr. Leech! Shh, it's okay. It was just another nightmare." She put an arm around his shoulder as Jeffrey fell to crying, his sobs heaving his chest. I can't do it, nurse. I can't. But I have to. He commands it. Is this the devil you're talking about again? Jeffrey nodded. It's all right, Mr. Leech. You don't have to do anything you don't want to, and no one's going to command anything of you. She smiled, other than that you lie down now and try to relax. Jeffrey turned to her. I'm so afraid, nurse. The nurse squeezed his hand. I know, Mr. Leech, but you don't have to be. Have you said a prayer? Jeffrey shook his head. Why ever not? Jeffrey's voice trembled. I never believed in God. His sentence broke apart, shaken by sobs. Well, if you've been to hell as you say you have, perhaps you ought to start believing. But why would God listen to me? I'm evil. I must be. Judgment has already been passed on me. I belong in hell. God listens to all, Mr. Leech, especially those who turn from Satan. The nurse looked around. Outside, the corridor was silent. She took Jeffrey's hand in both of hers. Pray with me, Mr. Leech. Our Father, who art in heaven. Jeffrey repeated her words. As he did so, the prayer came back to him. He hadn't spoken it since his school days. Then it had been meaningless to him. But now the words soothed him. His sobbing abated, and his voice ceased to tremble. Afterwards, when the nurse had given him a sedative and gone back to her station, Jeffrey repeated the prayer quietly, over and over, until he fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. I've never seen anything like it, said James, handing Jeffrey's pre-operation test results to Lucinda. It's like he's just had a successful heart transplant. She looked at the chart. Are you sure these are his? James nodded. The x-rays were taken this morning. He's made a complete recovery overnight? That's impossible. And yet, there it is. It seems our Mr. Leech is a living, breathing miracle. Lucinda held the pictures up to the light. What on earth do you think could be responsible? Well, it's not omega-3 fish oils, that's for sure. When he died, the arteries feeding his heart looked like someone had melted a kilo of cheese into them. Now they look like those of a healthy adolescent. So there's no need to operate? Well, there's nothing to operate on. Nothing malignant or even vaguely worrying. Lucinda leafed further into Geoffrey's chart. Well, evidently, damnation is good for the heart. Yes, but it plays havoc with your sanity. Poor chap's become obsessed with religion. Says he wants to join the priesthood and spend the rest of his life doing the Lord's work. Well, that's hardly insanity, James. I believe they call it a calling. Oh, he's been called, all right. He wants to leave immediately and go off to become a missionary in Africa or some such place. Lucinda indicated the chart. Well, according to this, there's no medical reason why he can't just do that. Perhaps. But according to this, James tapped his head, he shouldn't go anywhere. I'd like to do further tests. Understandably. What does he say to that? He says he's already wasted one life, and he's not prepared to waste a moment of his new one being a guinea pig for us. So he wants to leave? James nodded. Well, you can't hold him here against his will. If he's fit enough to leave, we can't keep him prisoner. I know. But it's bizarre, isn't it? I mean, it really is like some kind of... He shrugged. Some kind of miracle. Lucinda smiled. Don't tell me you think Jesus is responsible for this. Oh, I don't. And neither does Leach. So, what does he think? Not. James nodded. Exactly. According to Leach, this is the devil's work. He can't fulfill his mission with a diseased heart, so Satan's fixed it for him. I see. And so he's turned to religion for salvation? Presumably. Lucinda shook her head and handed James back the chart. So what are you going to do? Well, you could try and get him temporarily committed, insist he be handed over to psychiatric for tests. James smiled. Only if sudden religious piety qualifies as dangerous madness. And correct me if I'm wrong, Lucinda, but I don't believe it does. It doesn't. In which case... James looked at the X-rays on Geoffrey's chart, then back to Lucinda with a shrug. Who are we to stand in the way of the Lord's work?